Coming up on Lawmakers. The governor's natural gas bill, which doesn't re-regulate the industry but does overhaul the system, passes out of committee. A Walker County commissioner joins lawmakers in a conference call with U.S. Congressman Nathan Deal, hoping for federal dollars to help in the crematory cleanup. And it's Human Relations Day at the Capitol, a celebration of Georgia's diversity. This and more, next.
Live from Atlanta, this is Lawmakers for Thursday, February 28th. Here are your hosts, Gerald Bryant and Susan Hoffman.
Good evening, everyone. Also on tonight's broadcast, the Senate passes a bill banning legislators from interfering with the transfer of prisoners. And the House takes up a housekeeping measure that blossoms into a lengthy look at the election statutes. But our lead story tonight, the latest on natural gas legislation. Governor Barnes' natural gas bill has cleared the first hurdle to becoming law. Today, the Senate Finance and Public Utilities Committee approved Senate Bill 500, which makes dozens of changes to the deregulation law passed in 1997. Hamilton Northcutt joins us live with that story. Hamilton.
Among the many changes, slamming is prohibited. That's when service is switched without the consumer's permission. So is cramming billings for services the customer didn't receive. And SB 500 would ensure enough.
Can we say cramming on TV?
Cramming. I just said it. And I'm going to say it again.
Say slamming. I don't know if we can say cramming. How about jamming?
Oh my gosh! I have a miserable scarf!
Oh no! We have a scarf crisis.
If our elected officials can say these questionable words.
All right. You can punch me up, Daryl. Por favor. Oh, I'm not. Hello.
Like a ghost.
You had mentioned my tie. I got this tie at a thrift shop in Winder. 99 cents.
Daryl will just
I know, David.
on today at a thrift shop in Winder. I don't even know where Winder is.
Well, thank you. It cost me $37.50 at Parisian.
You know, it's funny that you say that. I had a skirt on one day that was really cute.
My cameraman.
I picked up a lot of stuff cheap.
Walking wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, they didn't burn any. They didn't burn anything.
All right. My Nina likes to shop at your stores and stuff like that.
Oh, they do? Are they religious? Fanatics? Do they speak in tongues?
Yeah.
Ooh.
39 cents.
That is so. I've only seen that in person once. That's so eerie. It's really.
That's the whole town. Good sort of
It's disturbing.
I got relatives that live in Winder.
Is it coming through?
Yeah, I see it.
Thank you.
I think women can do better at those two. Ties and occasionally shirts are about all I can ever come up with.
Tricky out of me.
And usually ties are either like real old, real wide, real narrow, or polyester.
You're here, aren't you?
I only wear silk ties.
This is me. Thank you.
Me too.
I would too if I
were.
But this place I found has really been a banana.
House Bill 1481.
Yeah, I found
They're
a bunch
fun.
of stuff.
I love to go there and fun.
My left.
Just in case you're seized by a mad urge to take a really wide shot.
Tape it on the lens, like below the lens. House Bill 1481.
Okay.
Okay, and the House takes up a housekeeping. Coming up on Lawmakers. The governor's natural gas bill, which doesn't re-regulate the industry but does overhaul the system, passes out of committee. A Walker County commissioner joins lawmakers in a conference call with U.S. Congressman Nathan Deal, hoping for federal dollars to help in the crematory cleanup. And it's Human Relations Day at the Capitol, a celebration of Georgia's diversity. This and more, next.
Live from Atlanta, this is Lawmakers for Thursday, February 28th. Here are your hosts, Gerald Bryant and Susan Hoffman.
Good evening, everyone. Also on tonight's broadcast, the Senate passes a bill banning legislators from interfering with the transfer of prisoners.
And the House takes up a housekeeping measure that blossoms into a lengthy look at the election statutes. But our lead story tonight, the latest on natural gas legislation.
Governor Barnes' natural gas bill has cleared the first major hurdle to becoming law. Today, the Senate Finance and Public Utilities Committee approves Senate Bill 500, which makes dozens of changes to the deregulation law passed in 1997. Hamilton Northcutt joins us live with that story. Hamilton.
Among the many changes, slamming is prohibited. That's when service is switched without the consumer's permission. So is cramming. That's billing for services the customer didn't receive. And SB 500 would ensure enough competition to keep prices in check.
We're going to make sure that there's emergency provisions for the PSC to step in and to be able to institute certain rates if the competition is not there, so that we don't have people getting into a situation where there's just a cozy few marketers and we don't have a very competitive market that we want to drive the price down. And we're not going to have people in the cold here in Georgia.
The chairman of the Public Service Commission told the committee he likes the bill, but gave notice the PSC will need money to implement the changes.
In order to implement and enforce the requirements of this act, this Public Service Commission is going to need some resources to do that. And I would hope that the General Assembly would look strongly at providing the necessary funding to ensure that we don't have an unfunded mandate before us. I don't want to sit before you next year and say, we didn't make this situation better.
And that's exactly what the Senate Minority Leader fears may happen. Senator Eric Johnson disagrees with some provisions of the bill.
We either need to have more market forces and less regulation or more regulation. This bill is schizophrenic in trying to do both things. They're going to tax people who are paying for their gas and then subsidize people who aren't paying for their gas. And if we're going to do that, why don't we re-regulate? I mean, it's just, I can't figure out what the bill is trying to do other than let politicians say, well, they fixed a problem. And of course, I'm just worried that we're going to end up like California, where they sort of did the same thing. They tried to deregulate electricity, but they put a bunch of government regulations on the market.
Though it doesn't have unanimous support, as deregulation did 5 years ago, the natural gas bill does move on for consideration by the full Senate. Reporting live from the Capitol, I'm Hamilton Northcutt for Lawmakers.
Hamilton, is the House also working on natural gas legislation?
They are, and the House bill is identical to the Senate.
Okay, thank you very much, Hamilton.
The commissioner of Walker County, Beebe High School, made her way to the Capitol today to help legislators understand the financial situation in Walker County. Representative Mike Snow and Senator Jeff Mullis took her around the Capitol and joined her in a conference call with Congressman Nathan Deal and a meeting with the governor. David Zelski is standing by live with those details and some additional news on one of the crematory-related bills. David.
Well, House Bill 1481, Representative Mike Snow's bill that would make illegal the desecration of human bodies, was given a due pass today in the Senate Public Safety Committee meeting. And after that meeting, I had a chance to talk with Representative Snow about his day he spent with the commissioner from Walker County.
Took her up to my office. We had a conference with Congressman Nathan Deal in Washington. Hey, Congressman, this is Mike Snow.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
We got Beebe and Senator Mullis here, and we've got... He is going to be looking at what he can do to help us with state government and the very expensive costs of these forensic people that are in the county right now. We'll be in touch, I'm sure. We took her to see the Appropriations Chairman Terry Coleman, right? Hey. And some members of leadership in the Appropriations Committee about some of the problems we're going through in the county.
We should probably ask the Department of Community Affairs to go ahead and assign somebody from the regional office to work with them on helping them keep up.
We went and talked to the governor. The governor had been in Washington, I think, and talked to the president in the last 2 or 3 days. I'm not sure exactly which day.
We continue to seek out the federal funds that may be available in some other places. Hopefully a earmarked appropriation would come down, but at the same time the local Walker County has a responsibility and the state is assisting in that responsibility. I met this morning with the Soule County Commissioner, Commissioner Heiskell from in Walker County, and we discussed those issues and the continuing financial obligations.
We've found 339 bodies right now, and we were talking about
$5 to $10 million when we had 150 bodies. So we don't know, because we don't know the magnitude of the problem yet. We have not drained the lake, and we don't know what we're going to find in it.
Now, Representative Snow feels the day with Commissioner High School went well and believes there is still a chance of receiving some kind of federal financial support. Reporting live from the House chambers, I'm David Zelski for Lawmakers.
Thanks very much, David. Obtaining federal money for Walker County becomes an even higher priority as Governor Barnes asks for an additional $80 million in budget cuts. These are on top of the $80 million cuts he has already requested. The governor is citing a continued drop in revenues as the reason for the latest round of cuts. While the governor has not announced exactly where he plans to make those reductions, he has suggested a small drop, 0.25%, in the pay raises that he had proposed for school teachers, university personnel, and state workers. To boot, he has taken out pay raises for elected officials. The governor is also looking at possible cuts in new and replacement library books. To ensure the cuts, the governor is dropping his revenue estimate. He sets the revenue estimate every year, and lawmakers can shift budget line items but cannot exceed his estimate. It is the framework for the state budget each year.
The House today decided that the crime of second-degree child cruelty should be charged and tried as a separate offense, not merged with other felonies. Representative Glenn Richardson, who's an attorney, questioned whether this could close the merging option on all crimes.
Is it the opinion of those people that we can add non-merger clauses to all criminal statutes?
Well, we're not adding it to all criminal statutes. We are to this one because that was the original intent of the bill.
Okay, so you believe that, or someone believes that we can simply say that something doesn't merge, and therefore, by definition, there's no merger?
Well, there's nothing simple about this. I've been working on this since last year. It's been through the Special Judiciary Committee 3 times. It's had a lot of work put on it, so it's not a simple move. No, I don't think that we can simply add non-merger clauses to the existing code. We can add this one, and on the behalf of the children of this state, I think we should. We owe it to ourselves to do it.
The House approved the committee substitute to House Bill 1062. The vote was 153 to 12. It now moves to the Senate.
The House today undertook the annual task of updating the state's election laws, but what was introduced as a simple housekeeping bill generated a firestorm of debate. And Wandy Lawson is joining us live from the Capitol with our details. And Wandy.
Well, proposed changes to the election code included provisions to phase in optical scanning technology at the polls, to update the submission of absentee ballots, and to change the information that politicians must submit when filing notices of candidacy. The committee substitute to HB 1213 required candidates to submit their race and gender along with other qualifying information, and this is where the debate began.
What you're setting up is some type of qualification apartheid. What difference does it make? Why do you need to know what race someone is, what gender someone is, before they can qualify to run for office in this state? It's wrong, and we need to not do it.
Now, a section requiring voters to submit their Social Security numbers also generated opposition.
Isn't it true that the only number that we have that is not subject to change from, I guess, the day that we get it, and you could be a day old until the day that you die, is your Social Security number, and that this might in fact help to prevent fraud, which all of us are concerned about, by making sure that that number matches that individual, and that there's no other number, there's no other identification that we have in our life that is not subject to change. Isn't that true?
Sir, let me put it to you this way. My name is Herman Douglas Everett. I live at 2533 Baskin Court in Albany, Georgia. Nobody else lives there, and they can identify me from that information and that information only, and that's the only information they need to identify me with.
Well, when the House returned from lunch recess, Representative Bob Holmes presented a compromise amendment removing the race and gender provision and broadening the rules for distributing absentee ballots. The committee substitute for HB 1213 was approved with those amendments. That vote was 158 to 2. Reporting live from the Capitol, I'm Wandy Lawson for Lawmakers.
And Wandy, after the Holmes amendment, did House members readily accept the bill?
No, not exactly. Actually, it was only after lengthy debate and 6 additional amendments had been introduced, including one that passed requiring candidates to declare that they are not communists, that the vote was finally taken.
Okay, thanks very much, Wandy.
Well, elected officials may have to wait until they've been out of office 5 years before any state buildings, roads, bridges, and the like can be named for them. Senator Joey Brush said he was backing a bill that provides that because of growing public cynicism about politicians.
And much of that, I'll admit, is a faulty perception, fed by the simple fact that when we mess up, or when one of us, quote, goes bad, that is news, and when we do things right, it's not news. But unfortunately, I submit to you that some of it is well-deserved and earned by us. As many of you know from letters and emails and phone calls and various editorials and news stories, one of the ways we contribute and feed this cynicism is the growing proliferation out there of us naming roads and bridges and intersections and overpasses and buildings and everything else we can find after each other.
Senator Richard Marable was among those who disagreed with the committee substitute to Senate Bill 215, saying that naming buildings for public servants was a time-honored tradition.
As I sat here and thought about this, it would be very easy for me politically to vote and vote yes for this and say, yes, we want to do that. But I think in voting for it, we dishonor a lot of folks who have been honored by this body who have roads or buildings named after them because someone thought that their contribution was worthwhile enough to be recognized and honored.
Senate Bill 215 passed by committee substitute. The vote was 30 to 21. It goes to the House.
And the House approved an economic stimulus bill from the governor's legislative package today. Representative Charlie Smith explained that House Bill 1441 should attract technology companies to the state.
It establishes a program through which venture capital companies may raise funds from insurance companies to form an investment pool. The program is designed to stimulate the flow of financial capital available to emerging Georgia companies in high-tech sectors in order to create jobs in the state. The participating insurance companies receive tax credits on their insurance premium taxes. Those tax credits would not begin until fiscal year 2006, although the investments would begin immediately.
Other states that have adopted similar measures include Louisiana, Missouri, Wisconsin, New York, Colorado, and Florida. And according to Representative Smith, Florida expects the increase of venture capitalists to raise $1.8 billion for that state during the next 18 years. The House adopted House Bill 1441. The vote on that was 158 to 1. It moves to the Senate.
The House has voted to adjourn Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. They plan to meet on Thursday and Friday and then adjourn until Monday, March 18th. Before the Senate voted on the adjournment, Minority Leader Eric Johnson took issue with Majority Leader Charles Walker over the reason for adjournment. Walker said the 8 days off were needed to work on budgets.
And this will give us an opportunity to pass the conference committee report on the 02 budget, and we'll give the House an opportunity to be working on 03 budget to keep the process moving, so when we come back, when the bill come back to us, we will be in a position to pass it and get out in a timely fashion.
This has nothing to do with the budget, and we all know it. This has to do with reapportionment. There's an attempt to run the clock, stall the Senate and the people's business in the House of Representatives until the courts in Washington, D.C. make a decision.
The appropriation chairman told us we had some problems in Walker County. You all are aware that there will be some difference in the revenue estimates. We have to take the time to do the people's business. I appreciate what you have to say, but the fact of the matter is we are giving you time now. You got 2 weeks' notice when you're going to be off.
The vote on adjournment was 27 to 24, short of a majority. Majority Leader Walker asked for a vote of reconsideration. That won, but under Senate rules, a final vote on adjournment can't be taken until tomorrow.
In the meantime, Governor Roy Barnes announces plans to build a new Coast Guard facility in Brunswick, Georgia. He says that the station is part of a plan to strengthen Homeland Security. Lawmakers Michelle Horton is standing by live with more on our story. Michelle.
Well, Susan, Brunswick Station would include a multi-million-dollar facility as well as a 47-foot cutter for Sea Patrol. Governor Barnes says that this new project would help to increase coastal security in Georgia.
Now, this new facility and its personnel will provide Georgia with an economic boost. But the real benefit to the partnership is the increased security to the port of Brunswick and the port of Savannah, which both continue to grow, and the entire coastal area, including search and rescue, law enforcement, and port security.
Commissioner Robert Hightower also announced today that the Georgia Homeland Security Task Force was one of 8 states chosen to help the United States create new Homeland Security legislation.
We first started to look at Homeland Security after we were organized. One of the first things we looked at were the ports in Georgia. And of course we talked to the Coast Guard at that time. And without getting into a lot of detail about security issues around ports, I can tell you that it's hard to estimate how much this Coast Guard station and this enhanced Coast Guard operation down there with that cutter is going to improve the situation down there and the security for the ports.
Now, legislation has been introduced regarding this bill, and the Coast Guard hopes to see the building complete by December 2003. For Lawmakers, I'm Michelle Horton.
Michelle, who's going to foot the bill for this?
Well, Susan, like I said, this is a multi-million-dollar project. However, Governor Barnes says that the federal government will be funding it.
All right, thanks very much. Protecting America's homeland has been a top priority since September 11th. Today, the Senate Judiciary Committee took those safety measures one step further by passing Senate Bill 320. Lawmakers Jamie Coran is live from the Capitol with more. Jamie.
Senate Bill 320 defines the term domestic terrorism, and it provides that a person who violates the law would be subject to the maximum term of imprisonment and fined for this offense. However, according to Chuck Olson, who helped craft this legislation, it would only be needed in certain circumstances.
The number of times that you're going to see this be able to be used are going to be, I think, relatively small. You're talking the situation like Rudolph Johnson setting the bomb in the Olympics in Centennial Olympic Park, where there's intent to cause a large number of casualties. You've got somebody who just is in total disregard of what he does to a large number of people before you're ever going to get this kick in.
And lawmakers say this bill's purpose was to update the existing Homeland Security Act, which they say was outdated. Now, also on the committee's calendar was Senate Bill 355, which would restrict who is able to obtain autopsy photographs under the Open Records Act.
Basically, the next of kin first has to show proof of the familial relationship, and then secondly, for purposes of this code section alone, next of kin is defined as a child, parent, spouse, sibling, grandparent, uncle, aunt, first cousin, decedent.
Now, the committee requested on behalf of the Georgia Bureau of Investigations that photos only be released after the governor's written approval. Lawmakers also voted to allow the use of autopsy photos for educational purposes. Reporting live from the Capitol, I'm Jamie Coran for Lawmakers.
Thanks, Jamie.
The Senate has voted to ban legislators from requesting transfers for prison inmates. That came as an amendment to a bill sponsored by Senator Carol Jackson.
It would allow the state of Georgia to participate under treaties that the United States may be entered into with foreign states in the exchange of prisoners. An example of this would be if a foreigner comes into the state of Georgia, commits a crime, this would permit the state of Georgia to send him back to that country, or in the reverse, if someone is in a foreign country from Georgia, this would allow, not require, but allow the state of Georgia to bring him back.
Then Minority Leader Eric Johnson said constituents often make requests to legislators regarding family members in prison, and that can lead to some difficult situations.
We've been working with Legislative Counsel in good faith to try and address a problem that a lot of us feel, and that's the request for prisoner transfers. And unfortunately, the First Amendment written by Legislative Counsel basically said that elected officials or legislators could have no contact concerning a prisoner, and I don't think there's a problem with checking on somebody's health care or why they haven't called home. What we're trying to do is deal with all of the requests that you all receive from folks back home that say, I can't drive 6 hours, I want to bring so-and-so closer to home, and we just can't get in the business of deciding where prisoners should be housed. I think we need to trust the Department of Corrections to do it.
The Johnson amendment passed, and so did the bill. It goes to the House. The minority leader said his amendment was not connected to any recent occurrences in the Senate. Now, last month, Senator Van Street was suspended from office pending the outcome of charges that he took campaign contributions in exchange for having a convicted murderer moved to a minimum security prison.
And the House lifts the annual cap on tax-exempt college savings accounts. For information, the lifetime cap is $235,000. Representative Charlie Smith, the governor's floor leader, presented this bill. Representative Mitchell Kaye, a Republican, had wanted to lift the annual cap last year. Democrats said no.
I remember last year when we discussed this bill, there was some discussion that lifting the cap above $8,000 would be very, very, very expensive. Do you have any fiscal impact on increasing it from $8,000 per year to upwards of $235,000 in one lump sum?
Thank you, Mr. Kay. That's a very good question, and I'm
Thank you.
delighted.
You gave it to me earlier.
I'm delighted that you you read it perfectly. You'll recall that last year there was quite a bit of controversy about the legislation that when we passed it, and you and the governor were ahead of your time. We had a fiscal note last year on the bill. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it made it appear that what we were doing last year was quite expensive, and that if we did any more, it would be even more expensive. Since that time, what we did, you'll recall, last year is make the income from the college savings plan non-taxable, unlike what the federal government had in place at that time, and there the income was taxable. It could just be withdrawn and accumulate without paying taxes until it was withdrawn. The federal government has followed our lead here in Georgia. We were all ahead of our time, you and I, and the governor, and I appreciate you pointing out that fact. Now also, the letter that we have now on the fiscal impact of this legislation in connection with what we did last year is greatly reduced from what we had been told last year. And the note I have, and I'll be glad to share it with you, indicates that the fiscal impact would reduce collections from the income tax in Georgia by roughly $7 million in the first 3 years because of that release.
The bill, House Bill 1434, passed 163-0. It moves over to the Senate. Hundreds of Georgians with disabilities celebrated Developmental Disabilities Day today at the Capitol. The event was hosted by the Governor's Council of Developmental Disabilities.
It's really an opportunity for people with disabilities, their family members, and advocates to come and talk with their legislators and other policymakers about issues that are important to them. So we're talking about things about how do we get more money in the budget for services, how do we make sure that we have good quality services for people that have services, and really to educate our legislators about the issues that are important to people with disabilities.
The governor signed a proclamation declaring the month of March Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. New council members were also sworn in during today's ceremony.
Also today, this morning, the governor helped kick off the second annual Human Relations Day. This event brings together different cultures from all over Georgia to the Capitol to share a vision of a state that is strong because of its diversity. David Zelski has our story.
Diversity, communication, and understanding. All part of this annual event that gives a taste of Georgia's ever-growing diverse communities.
I am Georgia.
I am Georgia. Home for myself and for my family. I am Georgia. When I first came here, it was just like there wasn't that much diversity in Georgia, but now, as you see, there's a lot of Hispanics, a lot of Indians, a lot of Asians. I think that the culture is definitely growing.
So cool. I like it. I feel very good here. I feel very, very good here.
We are continuing to expand and to diversify. Our new residents have come here for the same reasons that people have sought Georgia for generations, and that is to make a better life for themselves and their families.
This event not only celebrated Georgia's growing diversity, but a little bit of Southern tradition as well.
Whenever family comes together, it's around food and dance and conversation and getting to know each other. And the communities have really become like family to me. I feel very blessed.
Diverse communities are growing every day, but today gave many a chance to show the state their progress. Reporting for Lawmakers, I'm David Zelski.
And in another cultural event, yesterday was Africa Day at the Capitol. Here are some highlights of that colorful and rhythmic event.
Well, Africa Day is an annual day that we, the Legislative Black Caucus, invite Africans in Georgia to come to the Capitol to see a part of what the political process is all about and to help celebrate Black History Month. And this is an annual affair that's put on by the Black Caucus.
No matter whether your ancestry comes from North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia, or the Arctic Circle, all of us are in a big melting pot, and we try to show off Africa once a year at the Capitol to show the appreciation that we have as African Americans to the mother continent, but also to educate the citizens of this state as to how valuable African culture is to our state and our state's economy.
Did you expect people to break out into a jam session here in the Rotunda?
They have no choice when they listen to African music. That's what we expect. If your body doesn't move, then you need to see a doctor.
I was enjoying that. He received his paratrooper training in Toccoa and fought in World War II as a member of the famed 506th Brigade, featured in the film Band of Brothers. Today, the House of Representatives honored Wild Bill Guinier.
To say I am amazed is not a word to say. I never knew I did so much in the World War II. Thank you. I accept all these honors for all the men that I served with that passed through Camp Toccoa 60 years ago. God bless them all. And I want to say this, God bless the GIs that are on this platform with me. I know they'll do the job that they're called on to do today. God bless you all, and thank you. That's it.
Other World War II units that trained in Toccoa include the 517th, the Pacific Flying Angels, and the 501st, which was dramatized in the film Saving Private Ryan.
Coming up tomorrow on Lawmakers, it's Read Across America Day, and Governor Barnes is going to read to students at Kimberly Elementary School in Atlanta, and the Senate will take up the supplemental budget. We'll have those stories and more tomorrow night at 7 on Lawmakers. For those of you with access to the Internet, you can watch Lawmakers online. Just visit our website at gpb.org. Lawmakers programs are streamed live, then archived on our site every night that we're on the air. Now stay tuned as Prep Sports Plus keeps you in the game with all the latest in high school sports. It's the best high school sports program on the air in the state. Prep Sports Plus is next here on GPTV.
And that is our broadcast for this, the 26th legislative day of the Georgia General Assembly. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Susan Hoffman.
I'm Gerald Bryan for all of us here at Lawmakers. Good night.